from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. Welcome to the CyberHub Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Please make sure to go to our CyberHub Podcast YouTube channel or find us on your favorite podcast listening platform. Subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and share the podcast with your friends, colleagues, and loved ones to get the latest. Again, without your support, this podcast would not be possible. So thank y'all. Again, I'm in a hotel. Really had my cup of coffee this morning. I still haven't had my espresso. Recording pretty darn early to get this content out today. So again, apologize, but whatever you're drinking while you're watching this live, coffee cup cheers. Got a packed show. We're going to be talking about the Twitter security chief whistleblower complaint. We're going to talk about a few escalations of privileges and some flaws that are existing out there, including a patch from GitLab. And that's what will kick off our show today. Let's get right into that with GitLab patching a critical remote code execution vulnerability that was impacting the GitLab Community Edition and Enterprise Edition, tracked as CVE 2022-2884, CVSS of 9.9 out of 10. The security flaw can be exploited via the GitHub import API, but requires authentication to be triggered. The vulnerability in the GitLab CE and EE affecting all versions starting from 11.3.4 before 15.1.5, all versions starting at 15.2 and before 15.2.3, all versions starting at 15.3 before 15.3.1 allows an authenticated user to achieve remote code execution through the import from the GitHub API endpoint, according to the advisory. We strongly recommend all installations running a version affected by the issues described to upgrade to the latest version as soon as possible. For those unable to update their GitLab installation immediately, the company recommends disabling the GitHub import function from the Visibility and Access Control tab in the Settings menu. GitLab Community Edition and Enterprise Editions 15.3.1, 15.2.3, and 15.1.5 contain patches for this specific vulnerability. You want to make sure that's something you get done if you're a GitLab customer or if your dev team's using that. A research around air-gapped system leaking data through network card LEDs. So Israeli researcher Mordechai Guri discovered a new method to exfiltrate data from the air-gapped system using the LED indicator on network cards dubbed Ether LED. The method turns the blinking light into a Morse code signal that can be decoded by an attacker. Capturing the signal requires a camera with a direct line of sight to the LED light on the air-gapped computer card. These can be translated into binary data to steal information. Actually, really interesting. That's why I brought this, kind of showing you the depth of research that we have in security today. Also, the ability that if you've got, and most of these air-gapped environments have a ton of either CCTV or IP-based security systems. And if someone gets in through that LED, they might be able to get a whole slew of information. So they're typically found in high sensitive environment, critical infrastructure, weapons controls unit. They're isolated from public internet. However, these systems work in air-gapped networks, still use a network card. If an intruder infects them with a specially crafted malware, they could replace the card driver with a version that modifies the LED color and blinking frequency to send waves of encoded data, according to Mordechai Guri. The Ether LED method can work with peripherals or hardware that use LEDs as status or operational indicators like routers, network-attached storage devices, printers, scanners, and various other connected devices. This is definitely something that's more, and in this type of environment would definitely be something that would be more state-financed rather than cybercrime. The attack begins with planting on the target computer malware that contains a modified version of the firmware for the network card, allows taking control of the LED blinking frequency, duration, and color. The malware can also directly attack the drive for the network interface controller to change connectivity status or to modulate the LEDs required for generating the signal. All of this stuff really significant, and you can see he's actually shown just how easy this is to do. Job well done by Mordechai Guri, talking about being able to sneak out passwords in 1.5 minutes. If you do 2 colors, 0.7 minutes. Bitcoin private key in just 4 minutes, pin codes in just under a minute, in a full minute, and RSA encryption keys in just about 30 to 60 minutes. Quite the thing. So you can take a look at how this works. There's a slew of this. The research piece on this is absolutely fascinating. Definitely worth a read. All the links to all the stories you're seeing on your screen today are available. Dr. Mordechai Guri's collection is, and he's part of the Ben Gurion University of the Negev, the capital. Ben Gurion University is right next to Beersheba. It's in Beersheba. It's right next to the CyberHub of Israel. So job well done there, Professor. Privilege escalation flaw is haunting VMware tools. Virtualization technology software giant VMware on Tuesday released patches to fix an important severity security flaw in the VMware tools suite of utilities. The vulnerability, which is tracked as CVE 2022-31676, could be exploited by attackers to escalate privileges on a compromised system. VMware Tools was impacted by the local privilege escalation vulnerability. A malicious actor with local non-admin access to the guest OS can escalate privileges as a root user in the virtual machine. VMware's Tools is a suite of utilities used to enhance the performance of VM's guest OSs and improves manages of these machines. Company is saying go and get. The company saying that this both affects Windows and Linux, so get those patched also. Google's uncovering a tool used by Iranian hackers to steal data from email accounts. And we talked about Iran yesterday targeting Israeli companies. Here we go with another story. This around the Charming Kitten, which is part of the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, a designated terrorist organization. The Iranian-backed actor known as Charming Kitten has added a new tool to its malware arsenal that allows it to retrieve data from Gmail, Yahoo, and Outlook accounts. Dubbed the Hyperscrape by the Google tag team, the actively in-developed malicious software is said to have been used against at least 24 accounts in Iran, with the oldest known sample dating back to 2020. The tool was discovered in 2021. Hyperscape requires the victim's account credentials to run using a valid authenticated user session. The attacker has hijacked the credentials the attacker has already acquired, according to IXBash. Written in .NET and designed to run on the attacker's Windows machine, the tool comes with functions to download and exfiltrate the contents of a victim's email inbox, in addition to deleting security emails sent from Google to alert the target of any suspicious logins. Should a message be originally unread, the tool marks it as unread after opening and downloading the email as a .eml file. What more is that Hyperscape are said to have included an option to request data from Google Takeout, a feature that allows users to export their data into a downloadable archive file. The findings follow the recent discovery of the C++-based Telegram Grabber tool by PwC that was used against domestic targets in Iran as well. So Iranian cyber capabilities are just getting worse by the day, folks. And our story yesterday, kind of everywhere I went, speaking of peers, Slack conversations, and whatnot, have all been around the former CISO over at Twitter filing a whistleblower complaint. This was obtained by the Washington Post, and their former security chief, Pieter Mudge-Zatko, alleges that the company misled regulators about lax security and spam. So the claim from the former head of security, Pieter Zatko, who is a widely admired person within the community known as Mudge. Brings Twitter as a chaotic and rudderless company, beset by infighting, unable to properly protect its 238 million daily users. For those listening, I put 238 in quotation marks, heads of states and other influential public figures. Among the most serious accusation in the complaint is that Twitter violated the terms of an 11-year-old settlement with the FTC by falsely claiming that it had a solid security plan. Zatko's complaint alleges he had warned colleagues that half of the company's servers were running out-of-date and vulnerable software, and that executives withheld dire facts about the number of breaches and lack of protection for user data, instead presenting directors with rosy charts measuring unimportant changes. This goes to talk about why having clear KPIs is critical, why the board of directors has to have a standard of what security reporting looks like, and not just taking the rosy part of, hey, only 5% of our people fall for phishing tests. Well, that's an important metric. It nonetheless does nothing to dictate the security program that an organization has. The complaint, which was filed last month with the SEC and the DOJ, as well as the FTC, says thousands of employees have wide-ranging and poorly tracked internal access to core company software, a situation that for years has led to embarrassing hacks, including the commandeering of accounts by with users like Elon Musk and President Obama and Trump, respectively. In addition, the whistleblower document alleges the company prioritized user growth over reducing spam through unwanted content, made the user experience worse. Executives stood to win individual bonuses as much as 10 million tied to increases in daily users, the complaint asserts, and nothing explicitly for cutting spam. Chief Executive Parag Agrawal was lying when he tweeted in May that the company was strongly incentivized to detect and remove as much spam as we possibly can, according to the complaint. In an interview with the Post, Atco described his decision to go public as an extension of his previous work exposing flaws in specific pieces of software and broader systematic failings in cybersecurity. He was hired by Jack Dorsey in late 2020 after a major security breach, and then he was fired in January of this year by Agrawal. He declined to say why, but if you look at his FTC complaint, chances are that they've withheld significant breaches from the public and from their shareholders, which could constitute a significant breach here as well for them, which could lead to criminal charges and misleading investors, inflating the price of the stock, and so much more. The Post interviewed about a dozen current and former employees for the story, many of whom spoke on condition of anonymity and sensitive information to discuss this issue. Some are backing him, others not so much, saying that he was let go for poor performance in leadership. I think many who've met that might want to dispute that claim altogether. Regarding the allegation of bots, they're saying that there's more than 300 million per year. I mean, again, a lot to this story, and the DOJ, SEC, and FTC have not commented about this complaint, but are investigating it. The timing has something to do with it, but it just shows you the challenges that many CISOs go, and this is going to have dramatic development to the role of a CISO and a CSO, and how boards are going to look at this, and how the SEC, DOJ, and FTC treat this whistleblower complaint, whether with some merit, all merit, or no merit at all, is really going to be a critical to the development of our roles as security practitioners across the entire enterprise. Folks, that's it for the show today. We'll be back with a whole slew of more things tomorrow and wrapping up this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.